Hello, everybody. I'm very glad to be here today and to be presenting to you the first component of the readiness preparation proposal. My name is Neeta Huda, and I am a member of the Forest Carbon Partnership Facility team here at the World Bank. I will be talking briefly about the overview of the readiness preparation proposal components, and then I will talk a little bit in detail about the first subcomponent of the proposal, which is the National Readiness Management Arrangements. The key components of the readiness preparation proposal are listed here in this slide. There are 6 key elements here, and the components of the proposal are structured into basically 3 categories. You have the first, which is the organize and consult, and as the name itself suggests, this deals with essentially the consultation and the organizational aspects of the readiness process. The second is the preparation of the RED strategy, which is the policy component of the readiness preparation proposal. The components 3 and 4, developing a reference scenario and designing a monitoring system, are the methodological aspects of the readiness preparation proposal. The component 5 is the budget and schedule, and this component allows a country to make or arrive at reasonable estimates of the financial requirements in dealing with each of the components of the readiness, and avoiding duplication and adding complementarities as possible. The component 6 is designing a program monitoring and evaluation framework. This helps a country essentially to lay down indicators relevant to the milestones in the readiness process and to basically monitor and review its progress. The readiness preparation proposal allows a country to essentially lay down a roadmap of the preparatory activities relevant to each of the core elements of the proposal, as I just outlined to you before. The idea is to have the process as inclusive, forward-looking, and coordinated as possible. And since the strategy would be a national strategy, it is important that all the relevant stakeholders are engaged in the preparation and formulation of the proposal right from the beginning. This was just to give you a flavor of what the RPP is about and how the various elements need to be synchronized and linked to each other. The National Readiness Management Arrangement is the first subcomponent under the Organize and Consult component of the proposal. The main purpose of this component is to put in place a system for managing and coordinating the RED readiness activities, whilst at the same time ensuring that RED integrates into both the existing and any new policies and strategies which are being developed, such as the national development plans or the carbon strategies, the country assistance strategies, or the PRSPs. The management arrangements should also feed into an overarching national climate change mitigation agenda. And why this is important is that RED is a cross-sectoral issue, and it is one sector which the countries are targeting for mitigation. It is therefore, and often the solutions to the RED problem in the country lie outside of the forestry sector. It is therefore necessary that any of the RED management arrangements do have a linkage and a channel to allow for the flow of information into the national climate change mitigation agenda. The question then becomes, what is necessary to be considered in setting up such an readiness management arrangement? The coordination and management of the readiness, that is essentially the scope of such an institutional arrangement, needs to include not just the management of the readiness process itself, but also that of the technical aspects of readiness, that is the analytical work that may be required, or any background information that is required in this regard, as well as the implementation of the RED itself. The second aspect to consider is the strengths and comparative advantages of the various organizations and agencies that may be involved in dealing with RED. It is therefore necessary to ensure which ministries and agencies as well as NGOs can be involved early on in establishing such arrangements. Thirdly, the representation of key stakeholders, including civil society organizations, forest-dependent people, and indigenous peoples, is very necessary. And last but not the least, the decision-making power of such an arrangement which is set in place. I would like to highlight here that it is not necessary for any country to begin setting up such arrangements from scratch. Where possible, one should rely on existing institutional structures and arrangements related to the climate change agenda in the country. If one were to set up an institutional arrangement, for example, the RED working group, for example, in a country, then the design of such a RED working group should necessarily consider some of the issues. For example, the composition of such a group needs to be cross-sectoral and engage key stakeholder representation right from the beginning. An early stakeholder analysis process can help feed into the composition of such a working group. The working group should have a very clear and formal mandate, and it needs to be ensured that it is endorsed by the highest body in the government. The roles and responsibilities of each of the agencies and organizations represented in the working group need to be made very clear. This would be very important for ultimately achieving the objectives of the readiness preparation formulation and at the stage of implementation. The terms of reference for the working group and of the subgroups, if any, need to be made very clear. And there need to be put in place reporting back mechanisms from the subgroups to the working group, as well as from the working group to a body at the higher level. As I mentioned earlier, different approaches can be used in setting up such readiness management arrangements, and countries have tried different approaches, but what we have seen so far in some of the earlier preparation proposals submitted to the FMT and to the PC is that a two-tier approach has been used successfully. So you have a RED working group in the country which then synchronizes and integrates and coordinates its work with the bigger climate change mitigation agenda, which is handled at a higher level by a National Climate Change Steering Committee. And the lessons which are being learned is that a robust system needs to be in place with representation and engaging all the relevant stakeholder groups. And I would like to highlight it is essential that this is done right in the beginning. There have been instances where the stakeholders were not involved in the beginning, and this has led to a lack of ownership of the readiness preparation proposal itself. The legitimacy of the decisions of the RED working group very much depends on its constitution. A clear terms of reference for the steering committees, a legal underpinning, and concurrence of all the stakeholders is a key to the success of the decisions made by the working group and for the ultimate implementation of the proposal. Interdisciplinary working groups seem to be a very good way for developing the readiness ownership. So these were some of the points which I meant to share with you on this aspect, and I hope this will help our country representatives in designing this component. I would also like to add one other point with respect to the overall structure of the readiness preparation proposal. There is a descriptive part to each component of the proposal, and then there is an optional annex. As far as possible, countries are encouraged to include all meaningful information in the descriptive part and use the annex only where it is necessary to add additional information which is secondary in nature. Thank you very much.